Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday. I'm Jen Carfagno.
And I'm Bonnie Schneider. It could shape up to be a very active day with a very dynamic spring storm.
Yeah, this is what has us chatting about in weather today. All of the risks that we have out there with severe weather. It's the first time in months that we will see the chance of a severe weather watch. Cities across this area have seen any kind of warning when it comes to tornadoes. We want to make sure you are ahead of the game today. You know what to expect. That's one threat, but also there's the risk for hail, the risk for damaging winds, and we've got a lot going on even to start today. So this is the risk area. Everywhere in red has the chance of seeing severe weather. In orange is where you just have the chance of general thunderstorms with lightning and thunder out there. And we've already seen some of that this morning. We're going to keep the risk going through today, and we're going to time out what you can expect when. Right now we got a little rain heading towards St. Louis. No thunder in that or lightning. But we've got some lightning and some thunderstorms here south of Omaha, northern parts of Missouri, moving into Iowa. Wouldn't be surprised if up here where we see some lightning, if we see maybe some small hail. Wouldn't be at severe limits, but that's certainly a chance. We saw some earlier this morning, much earlier this morning in Fairbury, Nebraska. All right, so here's the setup for today. We've got one system tracking in. The warm front has been the focus for the rain so far, but we'll keep feeding in some moisture and some energy from our low-level jet stream, and that's going to help be one of the triggers for today to see severe weather. As we track everything, the jet stream, the main jet stream, is a bit farther north. Everything isn't lining up exactly. That's why this is not going to be a widespread big severe threat, but it is a severe threat and one that we haven't really seen in quite a while. These dew points and watching where the highest dew points are will help point to where we are going to watch for today. And then tomorrow we have another risk for storms in a slightly different area, and Bonnie's going to take a look at that. That we've been tracking for you today and tomorrow that's going to bring active weather to the middle of the country. When it tracks to the east, it actually comes as rain. Let's take a look at the Northeast and talk temperatures here and how warm we've been so far this year. We've not been a lot of warm days, but in D.C. we had a 73 on St. Patrick's Day. Philadelphia, wish you could do that day again, right? It was great, 68 degrees on St. Patrick's Day. New York City, Boston, our warmest days were on March 11th when we were up close to 60, but not quite there. New York, we're getting into the 60s. D.C., we're practically going to be 80. How do we do it, and what does it mean for the forecast? Let's take a look. So we do have temperatures warming up, and we're going to stay on the cool side below average today, New York City, and tomorrow a little below average. Our average high is about 50 this time of year. But as this next system tracks in, it's going to come as rain. And as we warm up on Thursday to 65 degrees, 15 degrees above average, we're going to have rain. So yes, we get a warm up, but those southerly winds are going to bring back the moisture too. And so we don't necessarily get to go out and enjoy all of this warmer temperatures that we're going to be finding. Here we go with Wednesday, Thursday, Friday time frame as we track this next system into the Northeast. It is going to come as rain. Temperatures in Pittsburgh get to 64 degrees. Even Binghamton, 43 degrees for us, and even 49 by Thursday. So it is all rain. Boston, it's rain. New York City, it's rain. Philly, it's rain. D.C., it is rain. So we are going to see a warm up coming. Checked in D.C., we are looking at the cherry blossoms. Some green buds are starting to show, but but nothing really yet really popping. So we'll see if this warm up helps.
At least the green buds, that gives a little bit of sign of hope. Yep. Another place that's seeing some nicer weather where it's already blooming certainly is Los Angeles. This is MacArthur Park behind me. Looking good so far, but the temperatures are on the way up.
Yes, they are. We've got a big heat wave coming to the west. And by the time we get to the weekend, the warmth that we're going to see in the east, that's going away. The west gets all the warmth and the east really cools down.
That doesn't seem fair, but you're right. But taking a look at the forecast, in the 90s for Los Angeles towards the end of the week, back down to 81 for the weekend. And then Atlanta, look at that, 54. Friday night, it's going to drop down into the 30s here.
Such a difference, too, from Thursday to Saturday. So you can blame the jet stream, as usual, on what's going to happen. We are going to see a big ridge building across the west. This is a similar pattern, Bonnie, to what we've seen so much of the winter. Ridge in the west, big trough in the east.
Imagine if the air was colder and we had more moisture, we'd be talking about yet another winter storm. But I think at this point, we're going to be looking at just the cool weather coming into Tennessee, into Georgia, the Carolinas. I know we put away the winter coats, but guess what? You might need them Friday night and Saturday morning.
Temperatures are going to be running about 15 to 25 degrees below average. There might be a couple record lows. I saw Nashville Saturday morning maybe, and a couple spots in the Northeast on Sunday morning.
And look at the highs, 15 to 25 degrees above average, not just for California, but all the way into Billings, Phoenix. So much of the West saying, hey, it feels like summer, not even spring.
It's a time of year where the records start getting harder to beat. Like in Phoenix, you start getting up to about 100 to break a record, right? I mean, they're hard records to beat. But
That's
we're going to come close in spots.
Absolutely. In California, California, we're likely to see some of those records getting close, if not shattered, over the weekend due to that surging heat that's in the forecast. We'll keep you posted if we do break any of those records.
All right, well, coming up, we've got more on today's weather threat, and that is a severe weather threat, including the potential. We are completely covering every angle of severe weather to make sure you are ready. This is the first big experience we've had really this spring with a more widespread in terms of area at risk for severe weather. So let's talk about hail. Ever wondered how we get hail? It's all about air rising into the thunderstorm and feeding that thunderstorm, making that thunderstorm grow. And as air rises into a thunderstorm, it's called an updraft. Well, you need really strong updrafts for thunderstorms to really grow tall. And the stronger the updraft, it can sustain hail, which basically are just big chunks of ice. It can sustain hail longer up in it, and hail can grow larger in size. So this is the speed it takes for an updraft to get hail to grow to the size of a pea. It's about 35 miles per hour. Air rising into a thunderstorm at 49 miles per hour, almost 50 mile per hour updraft, that would create quarter-size hail. Golf ball size hail is created by a 64 mile per hour updraft, so practically highway speed. 81 mile per hour updrafts into a thunderstorm. If you can imagine air rising that strong, that could create baseball size hail, teacup size hail, 85 miles per hour, and softball size hail. You would expect updrafts of more than 100 miles per hour. Some reports earlier in Nebraska,
right,
a little bit of dime size hail, which isn't the kind that would do any damage.
It's just below the severe limit. So hail in Atchison about 0.8. So dime size hail, as you mentioned, reported just north of Kansas City. We've had some other reports as well in Fairbury, just about a ½ inch dime size. So this is really the first start of the day. I expect the hail to get larger and more numerous reports coming in through the afternoon.
It's quarter-size hail, which actually would cause damage maybe to your shingles on your roof. And so quarter-size hail or 1 inch hail, that's the criteria for severe limits. And we're concerned about this in the red zone today. Parts of central and southern Missouri, also down into northwestern Arkansas, and then a part of eastern Oklahoma for today under that risk for storms.
And tomorrow, a little bit more further to the east, we can see Springfield and south as well. Fort Smith, Oklahoma City, and even Dallas runs the risk for severe weather. And so many flights go through Dallas, so it's important to note to check ahead, because when we have severe weather like this, it could impact your travel through the middle of the week. And timing it out, you can see that as we go through the afternoon is when we start to see the storms really fire up.
It's even into this evening. I mean, you look at the timing of this, and it's beyond the dinner hour, 9 o'clock. We're going to keep an eye on this area still down here. We'll have to watch these storms for potentially be hail producers. Once we lose, pretty much all of our daytime heating, it's hard to see much more in terms of severe weather.
But then, even on tomorrow night, we'll be looking at the threat for more storms as well into Kansas and Oklahoma and Texas, as I mentioned. And Little Rock getting in on the action as well and working its way back to where we saw it today on Thursday. So some of these places getting hit twice, as we mentioned.
Now, coming up, we're going to talk about another angle to the storms, which is tornadoes. We've got the latest tornado condition index and where the to create these numbers here at the Weather Channel. Thanks for staying with us on Weather Center Live. I'm Jen Carfagno.
And I'm Bonnie Schneider. We're taking a look at not only what the severe weather we're expecting for today, but the last time we actually saw a tornado.
Even be new to you if you're a new viewer to the Weather Channel. So let's explain what the TORCON is. It's the Tornado Conditions Index, and it's a way to assess the level of risk when it comes to tornadoes in your area. For example, this is a for example, an 8 on the TORCON basically means there's an 80% risk of a tornado forming within a 50-mile radius. And Dr. Greg Forbes, who has had a lot of experience and expertise in assessing tornadoes, he came up with this index, and we carry it out here every day at the Weather Channel. Basically, you get your number, it's an 8. If no matter what it is, you multiply that by 10 to get your percentage risk of a tornado. And we're looking at 3s on our TORCON for today, and that's a type of risk that we are assessing across portions of the middle of the country. We've got the severe weather threat, Bonnie, that we're continuing to watch through today when it comes to hail, damaging winds, and there is also this tornado risk. And again, for the first time this season, we have really seen multiple days worth of the chance of severe weather, and it does include the chance of tornadoes.
That's true. So far this month through March 23rd, we have no tornadoes to tell you about. The previous record was March back in 1969. The first tornado occurred on March 23rd, and in 1951, there were only 6 tornadoes, and that's the record fewest for the month.
So there's never been a March without a tornado. We're basically in uncharted territory right now. And so what we are looking at is that chance of tornadoes going into today and tomorrow. You take a look at the season as a whole, not just March, but the season as a whole, it's been quiet. You know, folks, we've only had you look at 0 through March, but you look at season to date, 27, well below the average of 129 to date.
It sure is, of course, but it's still pretty early. We may catch up in April and May, but of course March isn't over yet. So for today, the tornado, the Torcon within 50 miles, a 30% chance for the areas you see here in red, but there's also a severe weather threat for the areas highlighted in yellow as well: central Missouri, western Illinois, northwest Arkansas, and eastern Oklahoma.
All right, so this is the area that we're watching for today. And what's coming into today's risk is that this morning we've been watching the warm front moving north, and we've been seeing some thunderstorms fire along that warm front. There is warm, moist air returning into the area. We are going to be watching for that to be one of the factors. Plus, we're going to have our low-level jet stream, our upper-level jet stream at play. It's just that everything's not exactly lined up for today.
No, not quite, but enough that we will see the atmosphere really ramp up into the afternoon and evening hours. And there's the upper level jet. There's some much cooler and drier air coming in behind that as well. And it's really evident when you put this into motion, Jen. This is our forecast dew points starting off with this morning, and watch the numbers on one side go up and on one side go down. And it really kind of shows the moisture, of course, that we're measuring in the air and how different it is, whether you're in western Kansas or eastern Kansas, for example, or into southern Missouri, Oklahoma. With those dew points in Little Rock, it's 52 tonight.
It's about how easily can air rise, because rising air is what goes into creating a thunderstorm and keeping it sustained. Air that has higher dew points and has more moisture in it is lighter and will rise easier and faster. And so certainly air with higher dew points will do that. You see that kind of air as we get into Wednesday.
That's true. It's not
even
more
of that kind of air back into parts of Oklahoma and Arkansas.
It's true. It's a persistent pattern for Tuesday and for Wednesday, where we have those high dew points, and we're definitely seeing some colder and drier air coming in behind it. So the setup for Springfield, Missouri, for example, calls for thunderstorms tonight into tomorrow. It's not just one day, Jen, it's two.
Exactly. All right, so we're continuing to watch the risk. Izzy, this 1-2 punch, as we're calling it. Today, we're watching an area from Missouri down into Arkansas. Tomorrow, we're going to be watching for a second area, and this is going to include parts of Oklahoma, again, into Arkansas. And so it's a slightly different situation, and we want to get more details on what we can expect. As we talked about, we haven't seen one single tornado this month. It's already March 24th, the slowest start to March for tornadoes on record.
That's right, and this beats 1969, when the first tornado of the year was reported on March 23rd. For some perspective, we spoke with Greg Carbon, the warning coordination meteorologist for the Storm Prediction Center. You know, this is an interesting topic. I wrote about it in my book, Extreme Weather. There's a lot of misnomers as to what to do when there's a tornado, even now with all the information out there. So it'll be interesting to see what the answer is and how everyone reacts at home.
We'll have the answer after the break, but this time of year, and this is the severe weather awareness season, where, you know, every spring, National Weather Service offices sponsor these tests, and they make sure that people know what to do in the case of a tornado. We'll continue talking about this.
To come up with a family disaster plan. If there is a disaster, know what to do, and even practice a drill going forward. If in case there's a tornado warning, where would you go? What would you do? Rehearse it before it actually happens.
If you have kids, they will also often leave that charge, right? Because they learn it in school and they want to share it with you. So it's a good time to do that as we take a look at the potential for severe weather starting today. Now, we have that risk of storms with hail, with damaging winds, and there is the isolated tornado risk as well from Missouri down to Arkansas and to parts of Oklahoma.
That's true, and it's not just for today, for tomorrow. That's why you want to keep it tuned to the Weather Channel, because we're going to keep you posted on where that tornado threat is for Tuesday and Wednesday.
All right, so one place that experiences tornado strength winds is